Hello, everybody. So I'm kind of just restarting this channel a little bit. I took a little break on it. I was getting crushed at work, and then I was also trying to just figure out how I wanted this to be and how I wanted this to fit into my life. But I figured I might as well just talk about my job and talk about my career because I know some people out there definitely could use some sort of advice and yeah, and all of that fun stuff. So, a little background about me. I graduated from a non-target. I was top of my class there, and I ended up going into investment banking for full time. And this video is just going to be a little bit more about not how I broke into investment banking, but things I wish I knew before starting investment banking and all of the mistakes that I've made over this past year. And I think the core video idea here is that investment banking, especially private equity, M&A law, whatever, it's not about being a genius at any level. It's only about being dependable under pressure is kind of the biggest thing. So before I started, I genuinely thought the hardest part would be finance. I thought it would be the valuation, the modeling, the accounting, understanding deals. But that's easy, and AI can come in and do a lot about it. But the hardest part I found is that the speed at which some things can happen and the how quickly things can accelerate in an M&A process, when information's messy and when people expect insanely clean work and you have 24 hours to turn an entire messy data set into a data cube and provide a 20-page deck. It's um it's difficult, it's hard. In this video I'm going to talk about things I wish I just knew um early on. So first things first, banking is insanely valuable for just your career, and I think it's probably one of the best training grounds out there. A lot of students will come in and think the job is very, very finance heavy, and it's really not that much. It's mostly execution. And I think the main thing people do not understand is that you aren't paid necessarily to be a genius and you aren't paid to be whatever. You're paid to move the process forward. That means pretty much in order: Excel, PowerPoint, research, comments, cleanup, communication. Those are kind of the main things, and that's all that really matters. Technicals help you get the job without a doubt because the interviews and whatnot, but execution determines if you're useful or not. So, first point, the job's more execution than finance. You aren't talking about DCF assumptions all day. A lot of your work is pretty much just compiling commentary and data and formatting slides, updating decks, tracking where things are at in the process, spreading financials, doing a lot of research into buyers and private equity funds, sanity checking numbers a million times. It's very less glamorous than most people think, but it is important because it's the actual work that supports deals. So, good examples: updating sims, updating pitch decks, some small things. Even it's like updating a the date on the sim when you finalize it April 27th and May 1st comes around, and then you change it from April 2026 to May 2026 without anybody asking you. Those are the small things that do help move your career forward. And also pulling market research, checking if revenue and EBITDA numbers tie across various files, building the buyers list, formatting slides, cleaning messy data, creating the slide master, etc., etc. If you're a student, I think it's important to prepare for the technical aspect of the interview, but once you get the job, I think it's more important to prepare for the actual work, which is turning very messy, unstructured things from PowerPoint to Excel into very digestible and easy to understand outputs. Now, the next thing, and this is very important for law, private equity, even corporate finance, being dependable matters more than being impressive. I've came across some of the smartest kids' resumes in my little stint that I've had so far. And as a first year, no one expects you to be smart. You kind of are given a grace period, honestly, until you're an associate to be an idiot, honestly. But they expect you to be reliable, and that's just, can you respond quickly? Can you answer all of the um, you know, can you track all of the comments? Can you track where buyers are at in the process? Can you send clean work that doesn't require a billion comments on small things for formatting? Can people trust you with small things? So basically, if someone gives you a task, your job's not to be impressive. It's just to not mess it up. So make sure your work is trustworthy. If it's trustworthy, people stop looking for ways to criticize you, and that compounds insanely quickly. And dependability is the first form of career leverage, in my opinion. If you make your what you're known as being insanely responsive, whatever, um, that'll compound more than being the best modeler, but you take a day and a half to respond. Now, accuracy matters more than speed to that note, but speed still matters. Banking and a lot of jobs reward speed, and deals die due to it not closing a day earlier. A lot of times, more times than I can count, I've seen even in my first year. But bad work creates more works because it creates more iterations of the same stuff. So if you send it and a VP, cleans up 80% of a slide with comments, he's not checking the actual format or the content. Most of the time, if the working wording on a bullet point is messy, for example. So basically, you always need to make sure numbers tie, the source is correct, the date period is right. Is this the latest version? Does the formatting match? Did I actually answer the question, and did I actually show what this slide's supposed to show or this model's supposed to show? Fast work is really only valuable if people don't have to redo it. And another real skill to learn from this is sometimes things need to be perfect, and that requires a little bit longer to get done, and you should try to get it as perfect as you can on the first pass. But sometimes things just need to be directionally good enough, and it's really important to understand the difference between when something needs to be perfect and when it needs to be good enough. Now, the next one, communication, is very underrated, and I'll harp on this a million times. Banking is not just about doing tasks, but it's also about keeping people informed. A good analyst reduces the anxiety of the entire team. So if you're an MD and you don't know where your analyst is, that's not always the best point. Maybe the MD is not really the best example because he doesn't care, but like if you're stepping out for coffee and it's a very busy period, or you're expecting something later in the day, do like, hey, I'm stepping out for coffee for 30 minutes. I'll be back on this time, or hey, I'm grabbing lunch. I'll be back on. Those small things really do compound so much more than people realize. Small examples are just saying, confirming receipt within 10 minutes of an email, or, I'm working through this now, or sending something if someone asks for it and it's like, hey, I'm still working through this. I'm still checking X. This is an error I found. This is how I'm trying to go about it. Or the number do not tie yet. I'm looking into the source. I'll send shortly once I confirm latest data. Those small things help so much. And a lot of the job, and it does carry over into a lot of aspects of your life, is making people feel like the work stream is under control. So you don't need to over communicate, but you just need to make sure people are aware of where things are at. So if it's like, if it's 4 p.m., you've updated the latest, buyer's diligence tracker or commentary tracker or whatever, just send a quick message around to the associates so they know it's like, oh, I can check that, or, oh, I trust this guy's work and it's going to be good, sort of deal. The next thing, and I think this is the most underrated part of banking, is you learn the business by seeing the patterns get repeated. By seeing errors come up in a process early on and seeing how errors are rectified, you really start understanding businesses a lot more. And at first, everything feels very, very random. The first sim, the first model, the first buyer's list, first MP, it's all confusing, and you don't really understand why you're doing something the way. But then the patterns start to repeat, and you start to see what actually matters in companies. Then you start noticing things such as revenue quality, EBITDA margins, concentration, growth drivers, working capital, debt, buyer universe, why certain companies are valuable, and why some businesses might sell for higher multiples than others. Even if they're in the same industry, one might have, contracted, dedicated revenue, and the other one might be all call and demand or spot rate, depending on what kind of, thing you're selling. So banking teaches you how to look at a company like an asset, not just brands. In my opinion, this is the biggest benefit of banking. And now, if you're PE, you're actually buying, so I do think you see under the hood a little bit more, or see how things are done a little bit easier. But if you're in banking and you like the advisory thing, if you start noticing those patterns, you can kind of estimate, well, when you go into a pitch. Recently, for example, we were on this trucking deal, and I'm on 2 or 3 trucking businesses that I've sold so far or about to sell to one of them. And I was just like, this was probably going to sell at a 30% discount to what we just sold, even though it's in the very similar industry. very similar customers, very similar assets, because the way they do their revenue and pricing is different. Now, some practical advice that I have for students. First things first, I would not only focus on memorizing technical questions, I would actually make sure you understand the job. So learn the accounting basics, get good at Excel, but you need to understand how companies make monies, reading businesses, how to write cleanly, get organized, how to build better questions and ask better questions, and then building attention to detail. The technical matters, but the analyst skill set is a lot broader than that. And what I wish I knew about this job before starting is it's not really about proving you're the smartest person in the room. In fact, I'm hardly the smartest person in the room, and I never try to be. Honestly, even if I might be the smartest on the topic, I don't want that to really be my reputation, for example. So it's about becoming useful, dependable, and sharp enough to handle real pressure early on in your career. And if you can do that, banking can be an extremely valuable first job or even a career. Now, I'll have a different video where I talk about various things such as private equity, M&A law, quality of earnings, banking as long-term careers, and what I think I want in my career. I don't know what I want, but banking can be an extremely valuable career long term, and it teaches you skills that most people will never even hope to experience in their life. So I hope this was helpful. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want me to talk about anything, please drop that in the comments. I'll be responding to them. Now, granted, it's like I'll be working most of the days, but I'll try to get to them as quick as possible. And yeah, drop any feedback in there. I'm gonna try to restart this channel, aiming to post like 1 to 2 times a day, ideally. I'm gonna probably do some batch content tonight and just kind of upload throughout the week or schedule them to upload. Just sort of how I'm gonna go about doing this, and I'm thinking I'm gonna switch it to more my experience of what I spend 90% of my working hours on instead of lifetime stories from college and when I was a kid. I'll still probably try to sprinkle a few of those in there, but I think me talking about my experience is going to be a lot more valuable to a lot of people, especially because it'll iterate and improve as I continuously, get a little bit older, some might say. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed this video and welcome back to the channel. I changed it to this even though no one's really gonna care about the previous one, but that's kind of just the direction. Also more for me for a document, but again, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and see you guys soon.